What are the biggest questions for some of the Chicago Bears rookie coming out of the rookie minicamp? We're talking a little bit about that today. Plus, Ben Solak has some interesting concerns and comments in regards to Odunze and Caleb Williams. We're going to talk about it all and more on today's Chicago Bears Central.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Derek Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content for today, y'all. And Nicholas Moreno raises some questions after the Chicago Bears mini camp about the Chicago Bears rookies that I do want to talk about. I think a lot of these are fair. Some of these are questions that I think we're all going to have in regards to some of these players the Bears brought in here. And the first one that he has up here is Coasten Lovelin as well. What are the reasonable expectations for Coasten Loveland in his first year in the NFL? Now, keep in mind, this is a player that many people didn't have. I don't think anybody had the Chicago Bears drafting, right? Everybody kind of went a different way with the Chicago Bears, whether it's running back or a different tight end or whatever it ended up being. They go Coasten Loveland here. And what he brings is going to be potentially important as his ability to catch the ball, those type of things, and be a solid blocker as well. But he's not fully healthy, and that's the question that Nicholas Moreno raises here for Coasten Loveland: is will he be fully healthy? To start the season, and then if he is, what are those expectations that are there for him? Right? You look at the last rookie tight end under Ben Johnson was Sam Laporta, who went for 86 catches, 889 yards. 10 touchdowns in 2023, but he was a second rounder out of Iowa, right? So now you look at Coasten Loveland, selected 10th overall, and that should be something that Coasten Loveland theoretically should be able to replicate. Now, he is sharing those tight end snaps with Cole Kmet, but I think when you look at Coasten Loveland and the way that he's going to be able to be used in a Ben Johnson system, he's going to line up as a slot receiver at times. He's going to do a lot of crazy potential things. Of course, the 12-man personnel, which we've already talked a lot about, what the potential is there. But, those are going to be why it's kind of hard for Loveland as far as if you're just looking at the counting stats, right, for him to replicate something like that. But we'll see, right? When you look under Ben Johnson, he used two tight ends on 43.6% of the snaps in Detroit last season. So, a little under half of the snaps. So you're going to see a lot potentially of Loveland and Kmet out there. But he's going to get opportunities to make plays. And I think overall, when you just look at it, first, get healthy. Secondly, we'll let all that other shit figure itself out on the football field, right? I'm not going to come in here, especially with the situation that Loveland is coming to, and have some type of crazy expectations statistically for him in that first year. But we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. Now, as far as Luther Burden, he raises this. How will Luther Burden handle not being the first option? And I think that that's a fair question. But I think when you look at it, one of the biggest things with Burden that even some of the more criticisms he drew in the draft process was he's tailor-made to be a slot receiver at the next level. And I think when you look under Ben Johnson and how productive the slot has been, statistically a slot receiver has been under Ben Johnson, listen, the dude's he's gonna get opportunities, right? I think that this is where he's gonna thrive at because he brings some things that DJ Moore and Odunze don't bring or not as strong at. And I think the three of these players are going to fit a lot more better than what Keenan Allen did with the two of them last season. Now, of course, naturally, if you have three wide receivers that all can be really good, they're going to start eating into each other's, situations and things like that. But I think that as these three players adjust and learn together, and Caleb Williams grows as well as a quarterback and understands the things that he can improve, I think Burden's going to come in, man, and he may average the least amount of targets in a game. He may average that. He may even be behind, maybe even a Coasten Loveland when it's all said and done. But I think he's going to make the most of it. I think where and how they're going to get him open in the open field is going to be important. And I think Burden is going to be a yak crazy yards after the catch. He's going to eat off that a lot, I think, when it comes down to it. But he is joining a team that has a lot of receiving options. DeAndre Swift is a receiving threat at the backfield. If Kyle Monangai, grows up in that depth chart, he can be that. You add that to Kmet. Loveland, Odunze, DJ Moore, even Olamide is there, right? So you have those guys that he's gonna have a lot of weapons at his disposal for Caleb Williams, but I think Luther Burden is gonna show himself on what he does well. That's gonna get him a number of that, and that's just the nature of what has happened with the Chicago Bears team, with adding the weapons that they've added, and also under Ben Johnson, you're gonna spread that ball out a lot. But I think that Luther Burden's competitive nature, how much he is going to absolutely welcome contact and get in that open field and what he can do there, I think he's going to have a really, really solid season. Next up, they say Trapillo. The question that Moreno raises here is, what happens if he doesn't start? I think that's a great question. I've talked personally, I hold myself accountable, a lot about Trapillo in the sense that he wins the starting left tackle position. The question is, okay, what if he doesn't? And I think that what you gain then there is a veteran, as far as in college, a well-seasoned guy that's going to be able to play swing tackle for you. He's already talked about it. He can play the left, he can play the right, and already in minicamp, he's played left tackle a lot. He's played left tackle for Boston College as well in some of that. So I think that he's already started preparing for the NFL. If Trapillo does not start, which I don't know if that's as big of a question, but if he doesn't, I think he's still going to be productive. He's instantly going to be your swing tackle that's able to do either side of the ball, and I think he's going to play really well for the Chicago Bears. I think Trapillo is going to have a season regardless. And with Braxton Jones already coming in and being limited during training camp, it gives Karen Amagaje, it gives Azie Trapillo huge opportunities to show what they can bring on that offensive line. I think they're going to be fine there. And if Braxton Jones beats out Azie Trapillo, that's going to be a bigger question on, all right, what are we doing? Are we doing some typical Bears shit, right? But if that happens, I think it's going to be perfectly fine. I think he's going to have a lot of play in his rookie year, and I would not be surprised if he does not start off the season as a starter. Wouldn't be surprised at all if he ends up that season being a starter. The next one, the question that he had for Shamar Turner was, will he get a chance to play on the edge? That's a big question, and that's a question that I haven't really thought a lot about when it comes to Turner. I looked at him more as the interior defensive line, but I think when you look at that edge rotation, you got Booker, you got Hardy, you got Sweat, you got Odunze, right? You have those guys there, and so you have some considerable depth. But Shamar Turner, much like Dayo Odunze, can play either or, right? I think that versatility is going to be something that Dennis Allen is going to look to use. I think Shamar is probably going to get the most reps at defensive tackle, but I think he will get an edge, right? When it comes down to it. And Dennis Allen already said that, worry about trying to see the flexibility, right? So they're trying to already see how flexible he can be. I think he's going to immediately pass up Zach Pickens. We'll see what happens with Andrew Billings. He had a torn pec last season. So, if he's back to full health as well. But I do think Shamar Turner is going to be a guy, as long as he brings it in training camp and continues to come out there and give that dog mentality that he got drafted for, he's going to get a lot of opportunity out there, again, relative to where he was drafted and the depth that we already have on the team. The next question that Moreno has here for Ruben Hippolyte is, can Hippolyte's speed earn him playing time at the strong linebacker? And that's the biggest question here. The strong side linebacker is up for grabs. Whether it's Noah Sewell, whether it's Ruben Hippolyte, whether it's even Power Echols, right, who's an undrafted free agent. Seems like there's going to be a lot of guys who get an opportunity to earn some of those snaps and to see what they can bring. Hippolyte's speed, and that could be the thing that kind of separates him under defense under Dennis Allen, right? And Dennis Allen's already talked about Hippolyte's speed, and because the linebackers are going to be asked to be matched up with tight ends and running backs, that speed could be something that ends up getting him in the door. The 4.4 40 time could be really huge for him. But he is drawing a competition that's going to be Noah Sewell. It's going to be Amin, right? It's going to be that. It's going to be Power Echols. It's going to be him. That's going to be a battle to watch in training camp and in preseason to see who comes out at the top on that one. But I do think he's going to get that opportunity, right? Next up, Za Frazier. The question that Moreno raises here for Za Frazier is, how will his length will impact wide receivers on the line of scrimmage? We know that Zay Frazier is that, like, he has the potential to be a dog here. 6'3", 186 pounds. I see that he is going to be able to do a lot of what Dennis Allen likes to ask from his defensive backs. We already know that Dennis Allen likes to use a lot of defensive backs in a lot of varying ways, right? But it seems like that he didn't get a chance to play with a lot of physicality in minicamp. It's because it's minicamp, but that physicality that he's going to bring here, That, I think, is going to be the thing that really separates him, and how physical he gets with these wide receivers. That could be what separates him from other players, especially if some, have mishaps or become head cases again for you. Austin Newman, it says, is positional versatility going to be Luke Newman is positional versatility enough to earn a roster spot? Now, I do think that Newman is going to earn a roster spot. That's not a question that I have. The question is how far can he move up the depth chart? And I think a big part for Newman, it comes down to this for me. Is Ryan Bates retained, right? We already know that Ryan Poles has said Ryan Bates is going to get an opportunity. He wants to see what he looks like in this rotation since all the change on the offensive line. But if Bates ends up being cut, which does save the Bears quite a bit in cap room as well, if he does end up there, Luke Newman is somebody who's right there ready to go to be able to step up for the Chicago Bears if they need it. So I even if Newman ends up not necessarily cracking the rotation hugely in year one, I think that that's coming anyway down the stretch, right? So, of course, you got guys like Bill Murray, right, that's going to be there. You got Doug Kramer. Stromberg is still here as well. You got those guys who are going to be ahead of Newman at least to start off, right? But with Newman being a 6th-round pick, I don't think it's necessarily about if he can come in year one and crack the rotation. It's about what is he showing in practice. If he does crack the rotation and does get an opportunity due to injury or anything else, how does he perform in those snaps? I think is going to be really important here. But we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised either if maybe he ends up on the practice squad. We'll see what happens there. But I think if you draft him, you believe in him to a degree, and we'll see what comes out there. And then the question for Kyle Monangai, the last question that Moreno has here is, will he finish as the number 2 ball carrier in the 7th round? If you're able to walk away from a 7th-round pick and they're your number 2 guy on your depth chart at running back in their rookie year, to me, that tells me you got tremendous value. That's what that tells me. And you look at what Monangai was able to do, right? The 2nd most rushing yards in the Big Ten last year. What he's done each of his years in the Big Ten is well. Like, this is a guy that you just you can't knock him. Now, he didn't get a whole lot of opportunities as a pass catcher at the backfield, but there is belief that he can do fine in that as well. And his pass blocking, Kyle Monangai has so much skill that the Bears need that I look at it and say he's going to have a really good opportunity to earn some snaps here early on for the Chicago Bears. And we'll see what happens when it comes down to that. We shall see what happens. But overall, let me know your guys' thoughts. What do you think about the questions that were raised here for the Chicago Bears rookies? What are some of your own questions for the Chicago Bears rookies as well? And we'll see what happens. With that said, I want to move into the next topic, right? ESPN, Ben Solak brought up some questions and points in regards to Rome Odunze and Caleb Williams. He said this: Odunze saw the most misses for Chicago because he made the most rookie mistakes, often miscommunicating with Williams on route adjustments and timing. He was also used on the most challenging throws, downfield namely. Odunze was 6th in the league last season in unrealized air yards. That's air yards the player got via target but failed to convert into receiving yards for whatever reason. In this case, it was mainly because of untouchable footballs, though I am more than a little worried, mainly more worried about the severe lack of chemistry between Williams and Odunze. I'm willing to give Odunze a lot of grace for suffering through a carousel of offensive coaches on a team rife with execution errors. Hey, listen, it's not bad points that are made here, right? And I do think, though, that you had 2 guys that were both rookies. A guy in Caleb Williams who, both of them had they went through 3 different offensive coordinators in their rookie year, a head coaching change, bad offense, bad offensive line. So it is some questions there. But also there's questions about Caleb Williams. We know, especially with Rome Odunze being used on downfield throws so much, there are just some issues with Caleb Williams in those type of throws last year, and you can't overlook that. So I think that this is a fair criticism. I do think that this is a fair concern as well to have about your second-year guys that are supposed to be, you drafted your quarterback, you drafted your wide receiver. The thought and idea is that these guys are going to grow together, and that the chemistry that they're going to build over years together is what's going to help take things over the top. So I think that that's fair, right? I'm not a guy that looks at things and I'm going to be like, there's some truth in most criticisms, right? And some of them, people are just ridiculous about things, but there are truths in most criticisms, regardless of the varying degrees of which you believe that in. I think that there are that, and you have to look at that and be fair in regards to that as well. And that's something that these guys have to learn through. And I think bringing in the changes of coaching staff, that's one of the things that you're also hoping is going to get better for your team, is that any type of chemistry issues, any type of kind of things that you help bring things together a little bit more. And that's Ben Johnson, that's Declan Doyle's. That's what they're tasked to do here in their first year with Chicago. They're tasked to help fix and course correct. Now, the question is, I think that you want to ask from this is that, what if that chemistry doesn't ever get there? And if that chemistry doesn't get to the place that you need it to be, what do you do? We are far too way off from that being a main question right now, but you do have to think about, there is a possibility of that. Now, I don't necessarily believe that is a huge possibility for that. I think that the guys are both competitors. They're going to figure it out. I think that it got better as the season went on, even though the offense was trashed the majority of the season. But I think that just highlights the pressure that like a Caleb Williams is on this season, that even Odunze is on. And much like we talked about yesterday, it's up to the coaching staff to bring those expectations of what you need to do here. And that is up to the coach to put that pressure on those guys. And pressure isn't bad. So, I think overall, like, Caleb Williams already is going to have tons of pressure coming into year two. You already had a guy in Jaden Daniels who was in your draft class that looked better than you in your rookie year because of what he was able to do and what that team was able to accomplish. Now, of course, we're looking at the team goals overall, but we know that Caleb is a very proud guy, and he says he wants to be one of the greatest to ever do it. Now you need to go in and put in that work, right? That's what you need to do. You need to go in and put in that work. And I believe that from what we've already heard about trying to understand the playbook, getting all that, like the chemistry already between Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams, the expectations that's set, that these guys are going to have an opportunity to live up to that. But it is going to be something to watch out for and monitor as the season goes on to see how is this chemistry working out between these two guys. But yeah, there's a lot of pressure here. And I think that, there have been the more pessimistic Bears fans, right, that I always like to address, that, they feel like, oh, well, people were trying to bail out Caleb Williams by blaming it all on the offensive line. No, two things can be true, right? Caleb Williams did have his struggles, absolutely, as a rookie quarterback last season. He needs to get better in that. The offensive line also had huge issues that affected the team overall. To say that it was either just had to be one or the other is asinine. It was both. Now, you've on paper completely upgraded your offensive line. Now, we need to see the growth that Caleb Williams makes from year one to year two. And to me, that's going to tell me a lot about who and how much he put in work to improve and realize the things that he had shortcomings on last year. That's what you have to look at. And so overall, like, there's always going to be challenges for everybody. There was always going to be that anyway. How the Bears, how Caleb Williams, how Odunze, how this team steps up to those, that's going to be really important. There are questions all up and down this roster on who and what this team can be, who and what these players can turn into, who and what they're going to be in year two. Was it just the coaching? Now that that's been eliminated, how much do they step up? Are we the same Bears? Those type of things. All those things are there. But again, the veterans that you have on this team, the coaches that you have on this team should be setting the expectations of what this team needs to do. And that's what I love to be in. That's what I love to see from this team. And we'll see how things shake out, right, for the Chicago Bears. They got questions that they need to answer. And the only way that they can answer is on the football field. So all this stuff in offseason, you can only get so far into that. And we'll see what happens. But you got guys that have huge expectations for themselves and for the team, right? You got Jalen Johnson, for example. He said this: my expectations for this year, I just wrote my numbers down. I want to have 7 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 10 turnovers at least. I want to have no touchdowns given up, no games over 50 receiving yards allowed, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl, and I want to get into the end zone 3 times. Hey, listen, if Johnson is able to do that, that would be one of the best seasons for a cornerback we've seen. One of the best. I'm not saying the best. We know we've had some great cornerback seasons here, but that would by far be the best season of Jalen Johnson's career. But you got to have that. You got to have those personal expectations. You got to have the team expectations. And we'll see what the Chicago Bears can do to live up to that, right? That's what I want to see. I'm not allowing my excitement to become expectations, but I've told you guys before, the thing that I love is being able to hold players accountable to what they said they want for themselves. That's the sweet spot for me. I want to be able to hold you accountable to what you say you want to do, what you say you want to become. So this is an opportunity for Jalen, for everybody, to show what they want to be. And we'll see what happens with the Chicago Bears team. But overall, the schedule releases today, goes down at 8 p.m. So we'll have that schedule release live stream for you as well. So be on the lookout for that. I'll have to do Bleacher Report, so maybe held down by C-Dub, Bobby, Steve-O, Kev, the guys. I'll come in a little bit after that. So the schedule release is going to be, that's kind of at that, it's just about training camp, getting through OTAs, things like that. And let's put the football pads on. Let's start playing some goddamn football. That's what I'm excited about. Let's start playing some football because that's the most important thing is how you play on that football field. So we'll see. But let me know your personal expectations for the Chicago Bears. What do you want to see from some of the players? What are some of your biggest concerns as it stands right now? Let me know all that down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Chi Bears Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. ChicagoBearsCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that's thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but Bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.